Apparently, just buying a grill wasn't enough. I had to build something for it too. So I built a custom side table for it, so I can finally grill in style. And I know you want one too, so follow me. And lass uns anfangen.
There's dirt on my hands, strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
I started a project off by drawing up some high-tech building plans, or something like that. Then I gathered the lumber I found around the property that I purchased for past projects. Every time I have a bigger project planned, I like to purchase extra lumber on purpose that I keep for other smaller projects that I come up with. Ideally, I always like to keep some extra boards on hand. I have to say I'm happy to be back in Florida, not only for the weather, but also for the quality of the lumber that Home Depot sells around here. The quality of lumber is like 100 times better compared to Nevada. Can someone tell me why that is? Anyways, I'm sure you already noticed I got a new birthday gift that I've been wanting for a long time now, a Milwaukee miter saw. I really like the convenience of it being much lighter than my Bosch miter saw and also being battery operated. Like most of my project, I started this one off by cutting the lumber to size. I cut the pieces for the tabletop and the leg pieces, using 2x4s. Once I had those pieces cut, I started with the glue up of the tabletop since this will take the longest to dry. Initially I wanted to add pocket holes to the bottom, but it's just a small grilling side table. Nothing extremely heavy will be placed on top of it, so I thought just using glue will be sufficient. If you don't feel comfortable with this, you can simply add some pocket hole screws onto the bottom side. I decided to run all of the pieces over the table saw to square up the edges and take the rounded corners off. I got the table saw during Black Friday sale at Home Depot for around $135-ish, something like that. So it's a pretty good deal for me not having to transport back and forth my DeWalt. It does the job. The best part about working outdoors is that I can make the biggest mess without having to clean it up. Is there anything better than that? I don't think so. And yes, I still have the same never-ending old glue bottle. I still can't believe that I'm still using the same glue bottle. I usually go through so much glue, but this one is still half full. I don't know, there's something strange about this bottle. And yes, I'm using my fingers to spread the glue since I now lost all of the tools that I usually use for this matter. I tightened the clamps and then let that part dry, while I got back to cutting the rest of the pieces for the legs. I also still needed 2 pieces for the front and back of the tabletop. This glue up could have been much simpler if I had thought of bringing my larger clamps. I only brought the small pipe clamps. I do need to get some additional ones. Pipe clamps are awesome. They're the cheapest way to get some quality clamps. However, in Florida, they do need some upkeep to not start rusting immediately. I just had to show off my little lumber pile. I got something cool planned with the rest of the pieces for our next project. I'm actually really excited for this. It's going to entail some posts, some 2x6 lumber and deck boards, but more about it next time. Let's continue with this build first, because I'm tired of not having enough room for plates and things when I grill. And back to the table saw. I know what you're thinking about now. This wood dust actually looks worse than it was, because most of it blew away towards the camera. I just got a light drizzle of it. I'm not too concerned about it. One thing I decided to take on my trip was my planer. This thing is just too much money to own 2 of. However, the trip did not do it good, and I had some issues starting it up. Nothing some elbow grease can fix though. I know I say this about every tool that I own, but a planer is one of my favorites. It makes it so much easier to flatten out wood and gets it looking nice. Most construction lumber comes a bit rough and often has numbers and letters printed on it, which is difficult to sand off since you have to take off at least a millimeter. And then when you only sand the parts with the ink, then the lumber is uneven. But all it takes is one pass through the planer, and it's perfect. And now since the planer did all of the rough work, all that's left to do is a little quick sanding to make it extra smooth. So let's put on some good music and let's have some fun with it. just love being out in nature while woodworking. I just can't get enough of it. I noticed a squirrel sitting up in the tree eating some palm seeds, and then I also had to check on my bees, which are right below that. It's such a great feeling to be able to witness all of this. And now, since everything is smooth, let's move on to the pocket holes. Those holes I will use to assemble the base of the table. Initially, I wanted to just drill straight through the front of the lumber to attach the pieces, but then I decided different. I thought the style of the build wouldn't match the visible hardware, so I decided on pocket holes instead to hide the screws. Once I had all of the holes drilled, I assembled the base. To make sure I have two identical sides for the front and back, I just assembled the second side on top of the other to match the exact placement of the piece without having to measure it. The base is a very simple concept that anybody can build regardless of skills. It's really just 4 pieces of lumber for the legs, and then I put in some pieces in between to hold those pieces in place. I also decided to add extra shelves towards the lower half, not just for extra storage, but also for more stability for the base. Here I'm cutting those pieces that will make up the lower shelf. As you can tell, I simply placed those pieces onto the cross braces. I will use wood glue later after I paint to keep them in place. If you like, you can totally assemble all before you paint the wood. However, I think it's sometimes very difficult to get in between all those pieces, so you can end up with an even finish. Also, in Meike fashion, I cannot find those small foam brushes I got to apply the paint, so now I'm left with this larger foam roller, and this will make things even harder. This roller is great for large surfaces like doors, but it's not good for my current project. Once I had the base stained, I moved on to the tabletop. There were a few small holes in the lumber that I simply filled using wood filler. And then it was time to apply the stain. This time I wanted to go with a slightly different stain color. I've been using a lot of cedar tones that kind of have a red hue in it, and I wanted to change it up and more go into the brown directions. I was really concerned about it ending up being a poop brown tone, and after pouring the stain onto the wood, I got even more scared. I have total regrets right now. But hey, in the end it actually came out really nice. It looks nothing like an initial pour. Staining is always so nerve-wracking. And we are fertig! What do you think? Do you like the project? I think it was a very easy to build beginner project that's actually useful. I know I will get a lot of use out of it, and I really like the color of the stain. What do you think? I will see how it holds up in the Florida weather. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, like and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so, please click the bell button to get notified of new videos. If you can, please join my Patreon. This helps me create more YouTube videos. Thank you so much for all your support. See you next time. Tschüss und auf Wiedersehen.